Hi everyone, Robin here. Thanks for joining me today on the Poppystamps blog. My video today features Poppystamps' newest release. It's their Holiday 2018, and if you haven't had a chance to see it, you really should. They have a great lookbook for you to go through, and it will give you lots of inspiration. Not to mention, Poppystamps is having a blog blitz, so if you leave a comment, you have a chance to win one of the new dies from the release. So let's get started. The dies I used today are the Joy Outline, Pinpoint Shaker Ornament, and the Retro Ornaments die set. I'm also using the Tidings of Joy stamp set. This stamp set features several holiday sentiments, and it has a nice large joy stamp. I'm sure you'll get lots of use from this. The card I'm making today will need a number 10 business size envelope. So I am cutting my card base at 7 3/4 inches by 9 inches. And that will give me a nice comfortable amount of room to slip into a business size envelope. I scored my card at 3 7/8 inches and folded to create my base. The red panel for the front of my card is cut at 8 3/4 inches by 3 5/8. Basically, it's a 1/4 inch less than my card base. I'm adhering my red panel to the front of my card base using some Lawn Fawn glue tube. It's a great liquid adhesive. And what I usually do when I have a big panel and using liquid glue, I use a brayer to make sure it spreads evenly and completely. For my pinpoint shaker ornament, I'll be using some glitter paper from Tim Holtz that already has the adhesive on the back, so it's nice and thin. But because it's thin, I like to adhere it to a piece of cardstock. Here I'm just putting it onto a piece of Neenah 80 pound. And even with the addition of the cardstock, it still cuts quite easily. I cut 3 backer ornaments using the largest die from the Retro Ornaments die set, placed each one into a snowflake embossing folder, and ran through my die cut machine. I really liked the dimension, the little bit of snowflake impression created on each of the ornaments. Next up was to add some liquid glue around the edges of each of the ornaments, and then added the silver outline from the pinpoint shaker ornament. Again, using the liquid glue, I could move them around a bit. I placed an acrylic block on top and allowed to dry. Once dry, I added the cute little ornament topper. Here I'm using glossy accents. Anytime I'm using a metallic paper, I prefer to use this type of glue. It just seems to stick better. Here I've cut 3 joys from the Joy Outline die set. Again, using liquid glue. Makes it super easy to make sure they stack right on top of each other and give you that little extra wiggle room that I like. Once that was done, I was ready to add the thinner letters to my stacked joy. I'm adding the adhesive and then wiping it off slightly on the red piece of paper there. This helps keep excess glue from sneaking out when you add a die cut to another piece of paper. I added my acrylic block and allowed to dry. To add joy to my card, I'm using my clear T-square. It just helps to keep things straight. And I'm adding a little liquid glue. Yep, you guessed it. Adding to the T-square, which made sure it was nice and dry, added the acrylic block and let it dry. Well, I completely forgot to put my sentiment on the red panel before adding it to my card, so I'm adding it now. Fortunately, I have one of the new Stampin' Up! Stamp positioners, which is open on two sides and allows my card to hang off without any problems. So I use my anti-static powder on my card, a little Versamark ink onto the sentiment, and I'm using some white embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. It's a nice fine embossing powder. And I then used my heat gun to melt the embossing powder. Just remember to keep moving your heat gun. You don't want to overheat the embossing powder or it will go flat on you. So here are my ornaments. They're all dry and I'm just applying some foam adhesive onto the back of each one and then positioning them onto the front of my card. I like to do a layout first before I actually place them on a card. And if you'll notice, the little ornament topper on the top ornament is hanging off, but that's all right. There's plenty of room in the number 10 envelope to accommodate that. Here I have some sequins that I have laid out ahead of time, and I'm adding them to my card using some multi-matte glue. I'm also adding Nuvo crystal drops onto each of the ornaments. It just adds that little sparkle to them. I like the Nuvo crystal drops because they actually do dry clear without any yellow cast. Here you can see the detail created just by using a simple embossing folder onto the back of each ornament. The number 10 envelope I'm using is from Paper Source. It is a heavier weight paper than what you would normally get at your standard office supply. My card still uses a first class stamp, so no extra postage required here. Thanks again for stopping by today, and I hope you enjoyed my tutorial for making my Joy Christmas card. And if you leave a comment at the end of my post, you have a chance to win the Joy outline die that I used in my tutorial today. I hope you have a great day. Come back soon, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.